Hello!
This is the first video that we're like sitting down to talk together. The only videos that you've been in so far, we're traveling.
Right.
Guys, I'm so excited to have my husband on with me today. We've been wanting to make this video since we got this camera. There's so many details of our relationship that we want to remember for ourselves when we're old and gray. We thought we would talk about them on here and share them with you guys so that we have this lifelong memory of our relationship. About how we met, about our time dating together. We're still dating, but the time before our engagement. Where do you want to start? Why don't you talk about how we met?
This goes all the way back to less than 2 years ago, actually.
No.
Yeah, July 2016.
That'll be 3 years ago.
Never mind.
Almost 3 years ago.
So we're gonna go all the way back to 3 years ago, sorry for my math, to July of 2016. During this time, we were very passionately involved in a young adult group at St. Augustine Church by the University of Miami. And we actually had a mutual friend, Joanna. She introduced us. So it's a very long story and we're gonna jump right in. Should I stop talking?
No, don't stop talking.
I'm not good at this.
You are good at this. Okay, so we met at St. Augustine and Joanna was standing there talking to AJ and I hadn't met him yet. And when I saw she was talking to him, I had to go tell her that we were ready to go and we needed to get back in the car. And I was like, who is that man that she is talking to? And I immediately thought he was super attractive and I was like, I need to know him. My first thought was, how have I not seen him here before? Because, you know, single at a church event, always checking out the situation, and I had never seen him before. So I was like, need to meet him. And so Joe introduced us and she says that she saw our eyes light up when we met each other, which is super cheesy, and I was trying to hide my inner emotions, but apparently I didn't do very well. So after that, she decided to play Cupid, and I was totally unaware, like I didn't know anything, but for the next couple of weeks I was traveling, and yeah, go. And
so there was a birthday party that we were celebrating for one of our friends from the group, and the question came up about future spouse. The ladies had shared a bit about what they would like in their future husband, and then they asked me what I was looking for in a future wife, and I started describing all these different things. You know, I was hoping that she would be smart, really dedicated to Christ, attractive and good-hearted, and after seeing Melissa, I was hoping that Joanna was also thinking about Melissa as well when she was thinking about, okay, I'm gonna play Cupid, who can I possibly set AJ up with? And she was, which is really cool.
So yeah, he had described this girl of his dreams, and then Joe was like, that sounds like Melissa. And so then she started scheming to have us meet up again together. I missed a part. So the next week after we met, we did see each other again at the same young adult group. The topic of the night was on friendship between men and women, and they were encouraging men and women to hang out as friends. And AJ and I were sitting next to each other, and he was like, oh, if you want to give me your number, we can meet up for lunch or something. So he kind of...
I was like playing it safe. I was afraid of making myself vulnerable and asking her out straight up and sharing with her my intentions of wanting to date. I wouldn't really recommend doing that, and I would say be intentional from the get-go and don't necessarily play it safe to try to protect yourself in that way.
So he asked me for my number, and I was traveling to Chicago the next week, which he went to Notre Dame, which is close to Chicago. So he was like, oh, I'll send you a list of really fun things to do. So he was texting me all those things, and my friends and I did all of his recommendations, and we had a great time in Chicago. And he kind of said, like in some of the messages, alluded to us going out to dinner together, but I kind of brushed by them because he wasn't asking me out outright. So I kind of just waited until I got home. I was traveling to a few different places, so I got back, and then that Monday was the celebration of the Assumption of Mary, and they were having a Latin Mass at a church here called Jesu, which is the oldest church in Miami. And so I was planning on going with my friend Johanna, and AJ was also planning on going, which I guess Joe had kind of orchestrated, which I was unaware of. And so we went to the Mass, which was really nice, really beautiful, and we sat together. AJ shared his missal with me so that I could know what was going on because it was in Latin. And then afterwards we went down. There was a potluck in the basement of the church. I skipped the part about Mary. You want to talk about Mary?
Yeah. There was that kind of like high school feeling of excitement, like when you're about to go to prom and you just see like your date that night and you're so excited to see them. I felt that way when Melissa was coming in. I was just really hoping that Joanna was going to bring her, and she did, which is awesome. During Mass, this was my first Latin Mass, during the Eucharist, while we were going up to receive the Eucharist, we knelt at the front, and in the front of the church there's a beautiful statue of the Blessed Mother. I just had this image of my cousin receiving the Eucharist kneeling during her wedding. We received the Eucharist kneeling right in front of the Blessed Virgin Mary statue, and
we were kneeling right next to each other, right?
And we were kneeling right next to each other.
I didn't know this because he was standing behind me, so I went up and then I was just focused on receiving Jesus,
and I just had this feeling praying in front of Mary that I was going to be doing this again one day, marrying Melissa. And this was before we even started dating.
He didn't even ask me out yet.
Something that Our Lady put on my heart, and it's amazing how it came true.
Yeah, and spoiler, we got married at that same church, and we brought flowers to Mary at that same spot because it was so special to us, and we love that church. It's so beautiful. We had gone down to the potluck in the basement, and then after dinner, AJ asked me to go to dinner with him that weekend. So that started off our dating relationship. We went on our first date that weekend, and it was really good. And then we kept dating ever since then. So
then on September 8th, after we had been dating a couple weeks, I formally asked her to be my girlfriend.
Nothing really changed though in our relationship.
But she said yes, and as you all may know, September 8th is the birthday of the Virgin Mary, and so dates were really important to me, and I was always trying to be intentional about those dates, about making sure that we honor the saints and we honor Christ and Our Lady, and I wanted our relationship to be based on that. So that's why I really took that next step forward in terms of formally asking her to be my girlfriend that day.
I had no idea that that's what the day was. I actually don't think I knew that until we gave a talk about our relationship, but then I realized that. Something that really stood out to me, I think it was on our first date. If it wasn't our first date, it was our second date. But we were talking about life and like our dreams and our goals and all of this stuff. And AJ had mentioned something about how he always dreamed of being a deacon. And this was God being like, I see the desires of your heart and just watch. It was a dream that was like deep down in my heart to be married to a deacon one day, which I just feel like is really random. And I had never even thought about it consciously enough to say it out loud. Like it was not something that I shared with any friends, any family members. It was just something that when I was at Mass and I would see deacons, and then after Mass I would see them with their families, I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful vocation, and I would love if I was ever to be married to a deacon. And I had never in my whole life heard a man say that he aspired to one day be a deacon. And so when AJ said that, I was like, okay, I'm paying attention. So that was awesome. And in the beginning of our relationship, I had a ton of walls around my heart. Like I was super closed off and made it really difficult for him, but he was so patient and so sure of me from the beginning. So that was really beautiful and really good for me, and I needed that because I just had a lot of walls and I was used to being really independent and not needing anybody. And so it took me a while to open up, and one time I told him that my heart was like
an artichoke.
An artichoke. Like you would think it's like an onion, you know, peel back the layers.
Like celery. No, it was an artichoke.
I don't know where I got that, but I was praying and God was just like, your heart's an artichoke. And I was like, okay. But I thought that made sense. There's an artichoke heart in the middle. And I was like, that is my soft heart in the middle. But there's all this hard layers on top. And he was just patiently peeling them back one by one.
And it was, I mean, you know, it was hard. It was hard. I'm a romantic at heart. And so
I pretty much stopped all of his romantic gestures.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to do so much. I was trying hard, if you will. And then the other thing is,
you're so good.
You have to remember, on our first date, I already knew I wanted to marry her. So
I knew there was potential, otherwise I wouldn't have been going on a date with him.
I already knew, you know, from the beginning, and I was 100% in. It took some time to let God open her artichoke.
Something that we always joked about was like, he would say things that were super beautiful and romantic, and I would just be like, this is too much for me. So I would tell him to slow down all the time, and he was really patient with what I needed and where I was at. But something he would always say was like, I'm not going to be able to tell you that I love you. You're going to have to say it first, otherwise I'm going to scare you away and you're going to break up with me. As time went on, as my heart started opening up, it didn't take that long. It felt like a long time, but it really wasn't. It was only 2 months in. But when I started being like, wow, I think that I am in love with this man and he's amazing. Well, one thing was seeing him with his family. When I met his family, that helped soften my heart a lot, because seeing the way that he treated them and loved them and respected them was really beautiful to see him that way and think that this is how he will treat me and our family one day if we end up getting married. As soon as I knew for sure, like, I am in love with him and I love him and I am so excited about our future together, and now I don't feel like so restricted that I can't even think about the future anymore, then I decided like I have to tell him right away. But we weren't together and I had to wait until we were together. So I told him to meet me before the young adult group one night, and we went for a walk and we were sitting outside of Starbucks on the water, and I like was trying to figure out how to say it. And then I just asked him, because I knew he would ask me back. I said, oh, what was the best part of your day or your week? And he told me whatever. I don't know what he's saying. I wasn't listening. And then he was like, oh, what was the best part of your week? And I was like, well, I love you. So that was good.
I was super shocked.
What were your eyes like?
Yeah, I was very surprised. It took a lot of vulnerability on her part to be the first to say it, but also vulnerability on my part to really share how I felt about her, how our aspirations for the future. I was very open about that from the beginning, and I was very hopeful. So I knew that I could get hurt putting myself out there, but at the same time I was willing to take that chance because of how special she is, and I knew that there's no one like her and that God had made her just for me. So
one thing I also loved that he started doing right away, well, at the beginning I was like, why is he calling me all the time? But after our first date, he started calling me
every day,
every night. He was just so consistent and good and like ready to make a commitment, and I just wasn't used to that. And so I was like, what is going on? Why are you calling me all the time? But I loved that it wasn't just a call to be like, oh, how are you? When are we going out again? He started calling me every night, but he also wanted to pray with me every night. And that was really beautiful, and that was something we continued through our entire relationship and now into marriage. And it's looked different in different seasons, but we have consistently prayed together every night that's been possible. And I feel like the nights that haven't been possible to either pray on the phone or pray together, we've prayed like through a text message or something. Mm-hmm. I want to say we've prayed every single day together in some capacity. Our faith was central in both of our lives individually, and then we wanted it to be the center of our relationships. So I loved that we made prayer a priority together from the beginning. It was probably your suggestion that we alternate nights. Like, he would lead prayer one night and then I would lead prayer the next night. It's a really vulnerable position to be in, like praying from your heart in front of someone who you just started dating or on the phone with someone who you just started dating. But it helps you to
grow closer together on a very deep level.
Yeah, on a spiritual level, grow together in that area, which is really important. And really important to be vulnerable with each other in relationship to a degree that's appropriate for the stage of the relationship that you're in, but to be able to share your heart with each other, to share with each other what it is that you want prayers for or what you're praying for, that was really awesome. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, we knew from the beginning of our relationship that we were on the same page about saving sex for marriage. That was something that I guess it probably came up on our first date. I don't really remember talking about it, but I knew that we were on the same page for sure. But in the beginning, we didn't get into details of like, what are our boundaries and how are we specifically going to be practicing chastity in our relationship. We did that in September. So we started dating in August. He heard me talking to a friend at church about how chastity was my favorite topic and I love talking about it. And he was like, that's your favorite topic? Like, why haven't we talked about it? And I was like, yeah, we should talk about it. So that weekend we had gone to dinner for my birthday, and then we were like, okay, let's talk about what this looks like for our relationship and how we can encourage each other to be the most pure for ourselves, together, and for God. We were really open with each other that night. We shared with each other about our past, about what we have done in our past, about the ways that we've failed in this area, and what our commitment is for our future, for God, for a future spouse, whether that is each other or someone else. We shared about like what our ideas are and then what boundaries we wanted to set for our relationship. So that was a really important conversation to have, because then we knew what areas that we are both strong, what areas that we are both weak, so that we can hold each other up when that stuff comes up along the way, which it will, and it's important to talk about and be really open and honest with each other about that. So that was a really good conversation that we had early on.
And it's just amazing how God's grace grace can work in a relationship and to heal not just the past, but also to protect one in the future and to make sure that, you know, we're helping each other grow closer to Christ, even through the struggle areas that we each have. So where I am weak, Christ is strong, and thank God he also sent my wife to help me be strong too. So
well, and on that note, like in that area of chastity, it works that way where like areas that I'm strong, you're weak, areas that you're strong, I'm weak. So we're complementary in that way, which is super helpful. And that's why it's like so clear when God makes someone for you that you're complementary. But then not only in that area, but like so many areas of our life, just our personality, the way that we are is very opposite, and that can be seen as like a negative thing, that in a lot of ways we're completely different. But I feel like we've seen it and used it as a beautiful advantage. It's like we're complementary of each other. The same way I have femininity and he has masculinity, those are complementary. Parts of our personality are complementary. So I'm very adventurous and risk-taking a little bit too much sometimes, and he's very safe. And so he keeps me safe and I help him to take some risks. Right? And what other areas? I'm super chill and laid back and could like look like a mess, and he always wants to look professional and look nice and have himself put together. And so that's a really good compliment, because I can help you chill out sometimes and you can help me keep myself together. Right?
Yeah, there's so many applications to it. So I think asking yourself that question, you know, do I feel like I can help my potential partner in the areas where they're weak? Can they help me in the areas where I'm weak? And really making sure that you pray through that question. It's really important.
One cool thing that we did when we were dating was in the 33 days leading up to December 8th, which was the
Immaculate Conception.
Conception.
Again, it's another date.
Remember, we love Mary, people.
Remember the dates in here, you know, and that the intentionality, the details.
Yeah, so the days leading up to December 8th, we did 33 days to morning glory, which is a Marian consecration. So you consecrate yourself to Jesus through Mary, because Mary is Jesus' mother and she knows him better than any human. And so through getting to know Mary, through her intercession, we can get to know Jesus even better. And it's super beautiful. So we went through that both for the first time, right? It was your first time? Mm-hmm. My first time. We have reconsecrated ourselves to Jesus through Mary twice since then. But that was our first one, and that was while we were dating, and it was really awesome to go through that together. We would do the prayers together each night on the phone. Then we went to Mass together on December 8th to consecrate ourselves with a whole group of people that were doing the consecration also. And we were wearing white for the consecration, and when we went up to do the consecration prayer with a blessing from the priest, AJ and I ended up standing. Just by chance, we were both standing next to each other directly in front of the altar in the center of the church, like exactly the way that you would stand if you were getting married. And it was like we were very aware of it, and we were like,
Yeah, and we knew it. You know, I mean, it just, God's so good and how things work out like that. And that's our dating story.
I don't know what else to say about dating. I don't want anyone to think that our relationship was perfect.
No.
Or that we never fought or anything. Like, we are passionate people. Right. So we do fight, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. You can fight. I posted something about this because I feel like it's really important. Like, you can fight and have a good relationship. As long as you know at the end of the day, like, you're gonna respect each other, you're gonna love each other, and you're desiring the good for the other person. And when you feel hurt, they didn't intend to hurt me. They did something that hurt me, but they're not out to get me. We were always able to work through things. There were difficult days and seasons, and we both did things that we shouldn't have, and we always didn't treat each other the most lovingly. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because I don't want anyone to think like, oh wow, they had a perfect relationship. Definitely not. Our relationship is not perfect. We still fight, but working through those things together just makes you stronger. If you know, like, this is the person who God has made for me, then all of these situations that are coming up is helping me to learn and to grow and to be a better person. So then we're stronger together and our relationship just gets better and better.
I think at the end of the day, just making sure that having Christ at the center of your relationship is so important, and not allowing the enemy to get in between you and your significant other, and making sure that you don't give him any opportunity to get in between and drive a wedge between you. So in order to avoid that, and no one's perfect, by any means, but always putting Christ at the center doesn't allow for that wedge to be put in between you. So honestly, I think praying together is a big glue in any relationship. Praying together brings a lot of healing, and it transforms moments of difficulty into moments of growth. And
community was also really important for us when we were dating and now when we're married, but community has always been, we met in community, and having solid friends who are also striving for holiness, who are also desiring the good for both of us in our relationship, to go to them when we are struggling in our relationship or individually, to have like good guy friends for you and good girlfriends for me and good couple friends who we can go to and be like, this is going on, like how do you think that we can best go about this? That was really important.
Right.
Yeah. Then what? Then we got engaged.
Yeah, but we'll save that for another video because there's a lot more details to come in that story.
Yeah, you started thinking about it in when?
Honestly, I started planning our engagement in the second month of our relationship. So, like it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy.
No, it's not crazy.
But
when
honestly,
you know.
Yeah. And
I wasn't that sure that early. I could see it.
And I really wanted something very special for her. So
yeah.
Again, the romantic in me just really came out, and
there are I feel like there are more details about our engagement, like about our proposal and stuff, rather like than just our relationship.
Right.
Absolutely. I feel like there was so much that went into it that he started thinking about so early, and then going back to October and planning for the future. So yeah, let us know if you want to see a video on all the details of our proposal and our engagement, because
it's a cool story.
Yeah,
I think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, I mean we will, but just let us know if it's something that you're interested in hearing more about.
And with that, we say good night.
So we hope you enjoyed hearing more about our relationship. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for a new video very soon, and we will see you later.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, good night.